ladies and gentlemen, this is Bunnysays. I'm back again, playing Minecraft. I just continued on. I got a cup of coffee first, though. Did some file stuff. Just kept on playing. I'm going to continue building the hole down through the tunnel here. This tunnel and a hole. It's a tunnel. Let me see, we have 1, 2, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 21. Let's continue this. Okay, I just want to quickly, so I don't forget the number, 22, okay. Yep. Hit the arrow there. Okay. Okay, that's 22. I'll put another 2 there. Now again, I used to have to put much more powered rails going down. But now you don't. 24. I can put down 24, and the cart moves a lot sort of slower, so or more of a stable speed. So it doesn't. Even if I put more, I would have to put powered rail like every third or fourth rail to get it to go real fast. I have to really have to continuously pound it, and I'm not gonna waste that kind of gold. I'm not gonna waste that many powered rails since I'm gonna need them. I'm gonna keep on putting stuff all over the place, you know. Okay. There we go. Let's do one more here, and we'll. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit more in, and we'll. Yeah, this one right here. I'm gonna put a torch up here. That. There we go. Oh, skeleton over there. It's hanging out in the corridor. There we go. Well, this tunnel's a lot bigger than I thought. I mean, it looked like it was nighttime outside there, and it's actually still the tunnel. Wow, okay. I wonder what that's going to do when I'm driving through the tunnel with the cart and it's nighttime. Well, I generally try not to travel when the car's at nighttime. Try to do it quickly when it's daytime. I don't want monsters appearing on the railroad, you know, on the rail, so screwing it up for you. It's a little, and since the view distance isn't so far, you might only have like a couple seconds, like 1 or 2 seconds, to suddenly like shoot a monster or something like that in front of you. So if you notice, there's stones just appear when I was about here. It means a monster will appear about there as well. In other words, they're not going to appear too far in front of you. If you're quickly going along on the rail, you know. And that means you're going to have very little time to hurry up and shoot twice. You have to shoot a monster twice, right, with the bow. You almost never kill it in one shot, so you suddenly have to shoot twice in that time. And now with the pause and the weapons, you have to get that sort of you have to pull back, get that one good shot, then pull back and get that other good shot quickly. And you might not have time to do that on the rail. So it makes it a little difficult to shoot monsters right in front of you. to worry about it. I only had 14 pieces there, so when I run out of pieces, that means I use up 14. The one reason why I don't have, like, say, a piece of block here, when you're right, like the corner of this block here, connected to the rail, sometimes the rail sort of slows down a bit because it's touching the sort of rock a tiny bit, even if it's just the corner like that. You know, like right here at the corner. Because it's considered you sort of brushy up against the stone and it slows you down. So I try to make sure the rail is with outside the, you know, if there's anything where it's touching, it's going to be, well, there's going to be one square in between. Excuse me. I got a cup of coffee and nice decent cup of coffee. Just checking the weather. It's going to be about 50 degrees Fahrenheit here. 40 in the nighttime. It's about 50 degrees is about what, 10 degrees for Celsius, around there. Okay. And 40 is about 5 degrees or so Celsius. And weirdly enough, a couple of days from now, it's going to hit 85 degrees Fahrenheit, which is really deranged. That I was like, wow, really? Which is about 30 degrees Celsius. So it's going to go from today being about 10 degrees Celsius to a few days from now, it's going to be 30 degrees Celsius. Yeah, at nighttime it's only 5, and then it's going from 5 to 30, basically. Yeah. This is around the time you get weird fluctuations in temperature here. Luckily, you know, in spring and autumn, you get roughly 50 to 60 degrees, somewhere between, say, 40 and 60 degree temperatures in Fahrenheit. Be roughly 5 and, say, 10 or 15, no, I'd say 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, you know. I mean, no, I'm sorry, Celsius. Okay. If you want to know a quick way to, if you ever have a problem converting Celsius and Fahrenheit, there's a quick way to do it. You could sort of, let me remember this straight now. What you do is take say a Fahrenheit, take the number, say, like, I believe tomorrow's going to be 70, and then the next day after that it's going to be 80, then the next day after that it's going to be 85. So say 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Minus off 32 degrees, right? Minus off 32. All right, it's very quick. So, for example, 70, which minus off 32, and then divide the number in half. Okay. Now, this is the example. Say 70 degrees Fahrenheit minus off 32, so it's, you know, 38, right? Divide that in half. All right, 38 divided in half is 15, it's 18. All right, then add a couple numbers. Just add a couple of points onto it. So 70 degrees, roughly 20 degrees Celsius. You sort of do it like that, roughly around there. Yeah, it's about 20. It's around there. The higher the Fahrenheit number, the more you want to add a couple extra points on at the end. You want to do 2 or 3. When you start hitting, say, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, you want to add on 3 points. If you're down to roughly, say, 50 or 40 degrees Fahrenheit, then you only want to add 1 point on. For example, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, let's try that. Say, that's what, no, it's going to be 40 degrees Fahrenheit. okay, tonight. So you want to try it. Just 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Take off, minus off 32 points. Right, so it's 8. Divide it in half, 4. Alright, then add about 1 point. Just throw in about a point after. About 5. See? So it's about 5 degrees Celsius. Somewhere around there. It should be around there. That's a very general, a very quick general idea. If you want to know, quickly. Just minus off 32. Divide the number in half. Then add, if it's a Fahrenheit number closer towards the freezing temperature, which is 32. Right, closer to 32, you give it 1 point, for example. If it's, say, in the 40 to 50 degree range, 40 to 50 Fahrenheit degree range. If it's, it's not hitting 60 and 70, you're adding 2 points. 80, 90, adding 3 points, like that. You sort of, the higher the Fahrenheit number goes up, the more point you're sort of fudging with at the end, And it works the exact opposite way for Celsius, right? You do the same thing. Like if you want to know, like, say, 10 degrees Celsius, right? You're adding on 32, right? And you're still the same thing. You're adding on points at the end. Hold on, let me get this iron here. Oh wow, there's a lot of it. Okay, say like 10 degrees Celsius, add 32. So, right, 10 plus 32 is 42. Right, then add on half the Celsius number, so 5. 42 and 5 is 47. You're adding on more Celsius points than Fahrenheit. You want to add you add like 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 points as you're going up. For every like 10 points of Celsius, you're adding on like 3 points at the end, So like, what was I saying? 10 plus, 10 is 42 plus half of the Celsius, so 5. Right, 47. You're adding on about 2 or 3 points, so 49 to 50. It's 49 to 50 degrees. Somewhere around there, basically, right? You could quickly figure out numbers out. I mean, if you're not looking to be super specific, that's a quick way to do it. That took them the longest time to figure out. If you're the problem is you tend to forget it, or at least I do all the time. The only thing you need to remember is just remember that Celsius is much more ordered, right? 18, 19, 20, 21. Hold on 1 second here. 21, 22. Okay, oops. Oh, what happened there? Oh, really? I can put the rail in my hand, right? Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't realize you could do that. Okay. Anyway. Now, if you figure it, right? Celsius is, 0 is freezing and 100's boiling, right? So you have 100 numbers to deal with, right? You have although what I do like about Fahrenheit is you can be a little more specific because you have Fahrenheit is 32 degrees is freezing, right? And what's it like? 212 or something like that is boiling, right? So if you think about it, say 30, 212, 30, it's about 180 numbers between freezing and boiling. So you could be the one nice thing about Fahrenheit, you could be a little more specific, but the Celsius is a little more ordered, right? It's a little easier to remember 0 and 100, right? But I do like that Fahrenheit. You can be you have a little bit more wiggle room to be a little more specific, you know. So if you think about it, very quickly, you figure out that there's 180 numbers to 100 numbers, right? So that means basically roughly around there, okay? So that means 1 degree Celsius, one point of Celsius is roughly 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit, so almost 2 points. So 1 degree of Celsius is basically 2 points, almost 2 points of Fahrenheit. So all you have to do is, you know, start at 32, or start at 0 and 32, say 10 Celsius, right? That's 10 degrees above 0. I mean, that, you know, obviously 10 degrees above freezing. I mean, so freezing in Fahrenheit is 32, so or is it 36? No, 36 is snow, so 32 is freezing. But whatever it is. But so you go, okay, so you're going, all right. Then say 10 Celsius would be about 18 degrees Fahrenheit, right? 10 points of Celsius would be 18 points of Fahrenheit. So 32 and 18, 42, let's say 50. See, it comes out right there, you know. So you can sort of figure it out like that. And it makes it a little easier, you know. If you orient yourself between like 0 and 32. Anyway, that's a quick lesson in Fahrenheit to Celsius conversion, or the other way around. Yeah, I found it to be, it helps to be a little, it helps, if you just want to quickly generalize, you know, you don't need to be super specific. You're just trying to figure it out. It's a little easier to do it that way. Remember, just, you know, going from Fahrenheit to Celsius, you minus off 32, then divide the number in half, add a couple points. Celsius is the exact other way around. Well, not the exact other way, yeah, but it's basically, you know, you're adding 32, half the number of the Celsius, add to it. You know, remember, 10 degrees Celsius, say, add 32 is, you know, 10, 42, add half that number of 10, 5 is 47, then you add a couple points. 49, basically 49 or 50, you know. You're adding a little bit more in the Celsius direction. The Fahrenheit's a little bit less. Once you do it a few times, you get used to, you start understanding, okay, you know, 40, 50 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit, you're adding 1 point, you know, 60, 70, you're adding 2 points, 80, 90, 100, you're adding 3 points like that, 3 to 4 points like that, you know. You start getting the idea of how much to fudge a little bit, you know, quickly. Torch there. Okay. Okay, didn't mean to do that. Let's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15. Let's put 1 there, so quickly say 16. There. Oh, by the way, I was thinking of, because I was talking about the time travel shows, I was trying to think of, like, good time travel shows, and I was like, because I could think of a lot of them that I've seen recently, somewhat fairly recently, or that stick in my memory. Because people use it all the time, you know, for movies and stuff like that, stories. And like I said, I don't particularly, I'm not particularly happy with time travel stories. But, let's get rid of this spider. throw some dirt out here. It's funny, as I'm doing this, I feel like a real, like, miner. Like how you have to run out here and throw dirt around and come out the, run around the back end there and try to make dirt. And, try to get rid of the dirt and stuff. The only thing worse would be is if I have to, like, have ventilation going in the tunnel. I am going to move this bed up further. But I was thinking of time travel shows, and like I said, I was thinking of 12 Monkeys, which I believe was a French, story. Alright, I hope I'm not stuck. I hope I don't get stuck instead of dying here. Because the bed is too close to the wall and stuff. Okay, I did it, good. But, I was thinking, of course, the huge, of course, the main thing is, of course, Back to the Future, right? Marty McFly. I was thinking of the other guy, Biff. He was like, McFly! He's hitting him on the head and stuff, sort of classic, but there's that. Which, actually, you know what, I remember thinking it was like, that was okay. I remember feeling like Back to the Future was pretty good. What are we getting right over here? Okay. And I didn't really have I didn't have a lot of problems with Back to the Future. It was just fun. It was a fun adventure romp of, and they kept the story focused, I thought, so that was, I think that's the main point. You want to sort of keep the story so focused, Oh, I already lost this. Oh, did I really drop my axe all the way back here? My big axe? Yeah, I did. Wow. That's a lot further than I thought it was. I was thinking that probably one of the things I didn't think worked out well at all was I read the Harry Potter books. If you know what I'm talking about, if I just mention that, if you read them too, you're probably thinking the same exact thing. Was the third book where Hermione gets like a time travel pendant. She has a thing she could go back in time so she could go to class, which I always thought was sort of just ridiculous. So she could okay, you know what, I'm going to start compressing these to the coal here, where Hermione uses a time travel pendant, so she could attend twice as many classes, and she supposedly got permission from the Ministry of Magic to do so. Now, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you know what I'm talking about. And I just remember thinking it was like the most ridiculous excuse for that story. I thought it was like, because it was just absurd that I'm like, and that just opened up a huge bevy of questions, like one of which was, why didn't they go back in time and just kill Voldemort? I was like, why would you not do that since he's murdering all these people? Or at least figuring out, what he was doing, or where he had the Horcruxes and stuff like that, where he was hiding them and all this type of thing, and I mean, you could really have used it to just did all kinds of massive damage with it, and yet the Ministry of Magic wouldn't do that, but they would allow, a girl to, to use it to take some extra classes. Now, if you don't know the story, Hermione, the girl, convinces the Ministry of Magic asks them to use it. To use a, she comes across. Can't remember how she comes across it, but but in this case, it presumably that means the Ministry of Magic has a time travel device. It's just a pendulum you spin, and you get, the more you spin it, the more further back in time you go. So, in this case, Hermione uses it to go back in time to do the most absurd thing. She just wants to take some extra classes. She convinces the Ministry of Magic to lend it to her so she could do that. And I'm thinking, like, really? Like, they'll lend it to a girl to do that? Something sort of silly as that, and yet they won't use it to kill the worst, killer in all time, or the worst, or to help them figure stuff out about Voldemort, the most evil wizard of all time. He's killing, hundreds, if not thousands, of people, or just ruining everybody, just causing terror in everybody and everything. But you'll give it to a girl to, attend some extra classes in school. She was using it to, she would go back in time an hour and take a class. She would take one class, go back in time an hour, and take another class. So she could take double classes. I thought that was sort of, and it just became, I was like, wow, that just became that was a really bad story device. Because again, it makes you think like, okay, well, that means the Ministry of Magic has time travel devices that you can go back in time with. Voldemort begins wiping out the Ministry of Magic. Or he begins replacing it with his own goons and stuff. So, you would have thought that the Ministry of Magic would use it to protect themselves, If they're going to give it to a girl to attend some classes, you'd think they would certainly use it to protect their own lives. Do all this stuff with and there are a couple of times where I'm thinking, well, they could have went back, and if they, like at the end of the story, they suddenly start using it to do some stuff with it, and I'm thinking, why didn't you do some other stuff with it? It's like other stuff they could have done that could have changed a lot. And they could have at any point change the entire story by just going back an hour or so. Like there was one point where there's just this thing going on, and this guy starts turning into, one of the teachers is a Professor Lupin he's obviously he's a werewolf. Now he's trying to help and stuff like it. Well, at one point they could have he starts turning into a werewolf and it starts screwing up everything. I was thinking, well, why didn't you just go back in time an hour and and do whatever you were supposed to do before he turned into the werewolf, And that type of thing, like it was sort of silly in that way. Or they're trying to convince Professor Snape of something that happened, very much so that this one guy, Peter Pettigrew, was a traitor to them and stuff, and nobody else saw it but them. And I was like, well, you could easily went back and then showed him. You could have went back a half an hour and showed him or something like that, that type of thing. was like, well, all types of, there's a whole bunch of stuff like that happening that you could have, said this and that. And, and I was like, oh god, this just, it totally almost, to me, it almost ruined that entire story. Everything was good up until they started. I think you want to be very careful about introducing time travel into a story. Because it just opens up a whole mess of worms, If you ever watch, if you're a Star Trek fan, I'm not a huge Star Trek fan. I used to watch it, and I saw the original series. And I think Deep Space Nine was my show. That was it was weird because it used to come on like the Next Generation. I didn't stop watching the Next Generation shows until it was about 3 or 4 seasons in when Captain Picard starts getting taken over by the Borg. And they started making a show, Deep Space Nine, was one of the spin-offs, and here, where I was, there was a new rule that came out for television programs where a program only had to have, before I think you had to have a certain amount of episodes, and then the show had to be I think like 5 years old, or had to have 5 seasons plus a certain amount of episodes. And I think it was above 100 before you could put it into syndication. In other words, you could put it into for reruns and stuff, But they changed that rule, and so I think it was like 3 seasons and I think like 75 shows or something like that, whatever it was. But they made it less, they made it a less stringent requirement, because shows were starting to, the seasons, because the seasons would be like 26 episodes long, very strictly. And then they started to become, because TV shows were starting to become 20 episodes long in a season, getting down towards 20 episodes long. For monetary reasons, And so they started. I think it was on the 4th, at the beginning of the 4th season of the Next Generation. They started. I think it was the 4th season. They started putting out Deep Space Nine. And I had never watched any of the shows before that, except for the old ones. So I'm all in reruns all the time. So they're always playing in reruns somewhere on some station, the original series. So as you grew up a kid, you sort of, back then you would always see them. You would always watch, you would see stuff like the Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island, Fred Flintstone, Star Trek, and, just whatever. Any old shows, Bonanza, old new westerns and stuff like that. And Dragnet, well, not Dragnet, Dragon's sort of old, but any of those old shows, the Brady Bunch and stuff like that, right? So, you'd always be seeing, at some point growing up, certainly at some point as your kid, you would pick up on, you would see Star Trek or something like that here in the States. But so they had, at this point, they started showing, I think it was on Saturday in the station here, they started putting out, and roughly around 6 o'clock, it was roughly around dinner time, because I remember always eating. And suddenly, they would have 6 to 7 would be, they started putting out repeats of the Next Generation. Then 7 to 8, they would put out Deep Space Nine. They started putting it out as a new show, because it was new. At that time it was new. And then when it first started coming out, and then so you would sort of have back to back. You could watch you watch Next Generation, then start watching Deep Space Nine, and then at 8 o'clock they have an 8 o'clock movie, on syndicated channels. Now syndicated channels are stations that tend to show they'll show old stuff, you know, old shows, and they'll have like an 8 o'clock movie or something. They'll have reruns of shows during the day, like cartoons in the daytime for kids, and then in the afternoon they'll start showing, you know, stuff like the Brady Bunch and stuff like that, and then they'll go up until 8 o'clock. They generally have like an 8 o'clock movie. Sometimes they'd have a 10 o'clock movie. And that'll be like, you know, old movies. You'd always see like every year, maybe once or twice a year, they'd have like The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, and stuff like it, you know, stuff you would see once a year, twice a year. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. No, I think everybody has those type of stations, you know. Less so now, but they certainly, it's sort of like that comic TV I was talking about before. It's just like that, you know. They'll have, well, that's less so, but, I mean, it would be sort of like that, you know. You'd have, like, it'd be and that's where you would catch up on old shows all the time. And that's why a lot of people would often see, you know, as I was growing up, like my generation would tend to see, like, they would sort of like know a lot of the same movies and stuff like that, because there'd always be some station in where you lived that was always putting those out, you know. And so in this case anyway, it was like Saturday they would have that, and I just happened to start watching them. I started watching the Deep Space Nine, really, and then basically in prelude to waiting for the Deep Space Nine to come on, I started watching the Next Generation shows, you know. And then at one point they began having, instead of 8 o'clock, because it became really popular, like it started becoming like really popular. And so they started having the station here got a hold of started getting hold of the new Next Generation show instead of just the repeats. And they started showing the new ones and the new one. They would show a repeat and the new show. And they showed Deep Space Nine. And when Deep Space Nine was on for a while, they started showing Deep Space Nine everyone. So it'd be like 4 hours of like from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Then instead of a Saturday, instead of an 8 o'clock movie, they would have another 2 hours of Star Trek. So if you were Star Trek minded, you would say, if you of the mind, you could sit there and just watch Star Trek for about 4 hours. Which was, you could see that in cable all over the place, but not in regular TV stations. Now you could watch like Sci-Fi Channel might do something like Star Trek Monday or something where they have like a 4 hour bracket of Star Trek shows or something. But at the time, that was sort of unusual to have a continuous show like that going on. Where it's just continuously showing like 4 hours worth of the same shows. I mean, not the same exact episode, but there's a couple of shows like that. So, and it was Saturday. Nothing's ever good on TV on Saturday. So, if you like Star Trek or something like that, you could just sit there and watch it. I didn't always, but I would tend to watch the Deep Space Nine, and then I ended up watching, once I started getting through all the Next Generation episodes, the reruns there, I started watching the new ones, you know. I was caught up on it, I started watching on the new ones. And there's a couple of years where I would just, you know, if you were doing nothing that night, and I wasn't, I was in school, so might be a time I was sitting there doing homework or something or whatever, and so you just sit there and watch some Star Trek. You just put it on and just watch it and just leave it there and just while you're doing whatever. But anyway, the whole point of that was the there was it was like a Groundhog's Day episode where they kept on going back in time, where the ship kept on blowing up. If you know what I'm talking about, if you ever watched Next Generation, you probably remember the episode. Like Captain Cod, it started out the episode with Captain Cod screaming, abandon ship, and suddenly the whole ship blows up. You're like, what the hell's going on? And suddenly they're going back in time. Suddenly they're back to their previous day or something. And then they're doing it over and over and over again until Data figures out something what's going on and helps the ship not to get destroyed. And it turns out that they were doing it for like months. They check out the local star date or something like that. And it turns out that they were stuck in like a time loop for months. And it was weird because, oh yeah, that's right. Suddenly a ship appeared because they were going towards an anomaly or something like that. And suddenly a ship come out of it and smashes into their ship. And they can't get away from the ship in time, you know. So suddenly they finally figure out a way. And they push away from the ship. And so it's funny because it was, suddenly they had an old ship from, an old Star Trek ship from like the movie, from the time of like the movies. I remember it was Kelsey Grammer, the guy from Frasier, who was the captain of the ship, and he's like, suddenly he appears on the screen, and he's like, I don't recognize your markings. Can I help you? What's going on? Like, where are you from and stuff? And it turns out that ship had been stuck in a time loop for like, it's supposed to be like over 100 years. And they were the ones stuck in the time loop, and the Enterprise got caught up in it, you know. It was just really strange. So I was like, wow, this was really very cool. Because they were wearing like the uniforms from like the movies and stuff. Because suddenly you see them and you're like, oh man, these guys are like. You see them wearing the old uniforms and you're like, oh man, these guys have been there for a while. You just sort of recognize it, you know. Okay, I'm at the outside here. Alright. What do you know? And, that was sort of I think that was sort of a famous episode. At least there's one that I really remember. Let me get out of here and see what level I need to be. Okay. Oh my god, am I next to my trees? Oh, holy crap, I am. Wow. Okay, what do you know? I'll put a powered rail right here and we'll go up right in through this dirt here. Just like that. Let's see if I can do this here. Yeah, okay. Actually, you know what? It should be the one before that. That just reminds me, well, it wasn't exactly, it was sort of it was a time travel episode because it was sort of time travel-y. They're going back in time over and over again. By one day. It's more like a Groundhog's Day episode. Let me put yep, like that. Okay. And you know what? We'll go straight this way. Take a straight turn. We'll put a one right here. Alright, I'm basically finished for this. This is nice. I'm going to have this rail go all the way back to my house there. Okay. 16s all the way here. Okay, there we go. Pretty good. I can't believe I can right up my... I didn't realize it was that close to my place. I thought I was gonna have to go, like, I thought I'd be up there, way back there on top of the mountain, and I'd have to like go all the way around and stuff. Oh, you know what? Yeah, okay, no. Okay. 5. You know what? I'll put a powered reel right here. No, actually, I put it right here. Alright, great, we're home. Or at least to me, I'm home. Yep. This could be the extra push when I'm coming along to go up there. There'll be a little extra push there. Okay, good. I'm wondering if I should mess around with my fields here. Maybe I should... You know what? I think I'll start the railroad here, actually. Yeah, because I don't want to mess around with these fields. I don't have a railroad going right up to it. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Okay. Yeah, I'll have it start like right here. Actually, that means... You know what? I'll put the powered wheel a little further back, actually. Just a couple of squares back, like right here. That should be enough to... I'll check it out right afterwards. I'll make a cart and see if it's okay. See if it's enough power to push this thing back. To push it over there. Up there. Bridge there. But there we are, I'm back home, so... Alright. Okay, there you go. Look like that, that's all. Actually, take that one off, that's it. Before, that should be enough to go up over this and then hit that one and continue on. Actually, you know what? I might want to push it back one right here. Yeah, I think I will. Okay. Okay, and where is that? It was right there, right? Okay, was not there. Yeah, okay. That's it. Here we go. Yeah, I want a little bit closer to the edge here. Can I put it here? No, okay. That's not, okay. Okay, yep. There we go, that's not bad, okay. That should be enough to 1, 2, 3, 4 to pick up a little speed to get over there. I'll check it out right now, actually. I'll make a quick card. Get some iron, make one little card, then we'll see how things go. Real quick, that's perfect because this file is about to end. Just hitting my time. About 50 minutes or so, yep. So that's perfect. Let me throw some cobblestone in there just to get rid of it. And yep, there, and there. Okay. Where's the food? Okay. I don't remember my things here anymore. My various chests. I don't remember which one's which. Okay. Okay. Real quick. this, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I don't need all that. I just need one. Okay, there's a card. Mine card. Don't leave the rails up there anymore. Okay, blocks of coal. Yep, more coal here. Just move all this stuff over. Okay. Pants, bow, shovel. Okay, there we go. Alright, perfect. I'm hitting 51 minutes, so just very quickly jump in the cart and see how it goes. I'll get off it real quick just to, I just want to see if it goes over this hill here. Yep, it does. Okay. No, come back here. No, don't go off. Okay. When you get out, it won't turn very well. It won't go anymore too well because there's no weight inside the car. Alright, so perfect. Let me run back. And next time I will take a long ride over on that guide just to check out the whole thing, to make sure it runs. So, thank you for joining me. As Bunnysays, we're back home. I got that railroad finally done. That's awesome to me. I'm very happy about that. Let me go up and get to my bedroom. And there we go. So, thank you for joining me on Bunnysays. I'll ramble on a little bit more next time. Please join me then. And if you get a chance, like and subscribe. I don't do that too often, but just a reminder every now and then. But if you like it, please do. If you don't feel obligated or anything. But in the meantime, I hope you join me again, and we'll check out the mine cart and the mine ride next time. So please join me then.